Hello, welcome back to Economics YouTube channel. Picking back from where we stopped the other time. So in the last class we spoke about history of agricultural sector in Nigeria. Then we also talked about features of the sector and some other things. So in this video, in this class, we're talking about the contribution of the agricultural sector to Nigeria's economic development so far, challenges of the sector and policies that have been implemented over time to help the sector. So talking about contribution, we are looking at production of food. Of course, agriculture is the backbone of any country in terms of food sufficiency. So production of food. Now that has helped us in terms of our food sufficiency, that is having food to eat in the country. Now it has also helped us to rely less on imports. And when you are producing something, so it reduces the amount of food imports that the country is going to do, and that also helps us in terms of our balance of payments. All right, because food importation is the more sufficient your country is in terms of food, the less it is going to spend on importing food items from other countries to augment whatever is being produced domestically, right? So agriculture has helped us to rely less on imports. We are still relying heavily on imports right now, but it would be worse if our agricultural sector were producing zero. So that's the point. Now, two source of livelihood. Agriculture has been the source of livelihood to people like farmers and business people as well. So it's a source of livelihood. For example, um, farmers that's the ones on the farm themselves. So agriculture is a direct means of livelihood to people like that. They get their produce, they sell in the market and stuff like that. Um, Example, that's my copper friend when he was doing farmland. So he had the intention of planting soya beans and guinea corn on his farmland, but he was advised to plant, I think, only guinea corn and stuff like that. So which he did. So if let's assume he eventually sold those because those were cash crops. So let's assume the guinea corn, he couldn't have eaten the things he planted alone. All right. So let's assume he was able to sell like maybe 80 to 90% of them. The money he gets is something that he could use to enjoy himself, you know. But something happened along the line anyway. We are going to talk about it later on. So number three, source of foreign exchange. Okay, so for exporters, farm exporters, so farm product exporters. You have people exporting snails, which is part of our livestock farming. You have people exporting. I know of snails. I'm pretty sure that people are exporting snails. Then you have catfish. People exporting these things. So when they do, of course, they are going to be paid in foreign currency. So when that comes to the economy, that's foreign exchange, dollars and whatever currency they are being paid. So it's a source of foreign exchange. Then it also contributes to the country's GDP. GDP is the measure of the total output of the currently produced goods and services in a country. All right, so that's just like a skeletal definition. That's not the full definition. So the production of food also contributes to the total output of the economy. All right, so the GDP contribution, so far so good. Okay, lately has been 22 between 20 to 23%. So that's according to Food and Agricultural Organization, and we also saw this actually in our first topic while treating our first topic. And we looked at what the agricultural sector has been contributing in the recent decades. I think starting from 2001, 2011. So that's been around 20 something percent. So if you were to take the average, it would fall around 20 to 23%, right? So further backing that up, because that data is from CBN Statistical Bulletin. So you have another data source that is backing it up, which is Food and Agricultural Organization. And number five, agricultural product has also been source of raw materials for agro-allied industries. So industries like the textile industry, so the cotton that is being used. Then you also have the furniture industry talking about the wood, and stuff like that, and so on and so forth. Now, what have been the challenges or some of the challenges of the agricultural sector in Nigeria? All right, so number one, you have inadequate financing slash poor access um, to funding. Now, the issue here is that we're talking about the features, and we said the country's sector is characterized by small farm holdings, small and scattered farm holdings. So it's not as if people wouldn't like to have bigger holdings, farm holdings, but the issue is that more often than not they don't have the money. So that's why I wrote national inadequate finance, and sometimes when the central bank or when the government provides a means for farmers to finance um, their farm business, what happens is that cronyism of the people in charge of the disbursements of the fund does not allow the real farmers to get access to this money. So the issue now is that okay, government and the CBN provides a loan, for example. We are going to talk about something like that soon. Provides a loan, for example, and what happens? You have big men, people that are not even farmers, corrupt politicians, businessmen in other areas coming into that system, and then because they are friends, that's what we call cronyism, cronies. They are cronies of the people in charge of the disbursement, so they get this money, and the farmers eventually don't get anything, or they get little to nothing. Okay, the farmer who the money or who the initiative been for had been intended for initially. So that's a big challenge that is being faced in Nigeria. So the main farmers and the farmers don't get anything, but they just get something small. Whereas people that are not farmers at all are the ones getting the billions and stuff like that. So leaving the farmers to having a poor access to proper funding. Now, number two, you have slow pace of research and development. So here, for example, in the case of Malaysia, what helped Malaysia and what is still helping Malaysia and Indonesia is the amount of money and political will that is being, put into research and development. And that is why the two countries can come from nowhere and start to lead the entire world, all right, in terms of palm oil production. All right. So, but in Nigeria, the level of research and development is small, right? You can't compare. Of course, if you could compare it, why would we be having why would we be producing 1.4 million tons of palm oil, for example, in 2022, whereas you have a country that comes from nowhere and is producing 50 million, and the other one producing almost 20 million. So that's at least one area where you know it's serious. Yeah, it's serious. Now we also have the issue of insecurity. So here, this is also one of the latest things. I think in 2019 and 2020, before 2015, I think during President Goodluck's Jonathan administration. So we had a lot of insecurity in Nigeria. Then bombings. Someone will just bomb you, and your family's gone. You understand? Then you have terrorists invading farmlands, raping women, killing people, and stuff like that. So, in a country where things like that are happening, people now become afraid to go to their farmlands, and that also contributed to that also limited the amount of food that the country, could produce. Now, you also have farmer herdsmen clash, herdsmen clash. So where you have herdsmen, bringing in their flock of sheep, cows, and stuff into farmlands of other people. And then you have this sheep or cow feeding on everything in the farmlands. Everything, everything. So I said I was going to talk about my friend at the cocoa pie. His name is Ebuka. Okay, the two farmlands that he was given. Later on, I got to hear because I had finished serving, and he was still there. I got there before him, so I finished serving before he did. And we used to talk, and when I spoke to some people, and they told me what happened, that herdsmen entered on his farmlands in different locations. I was telling you then that he had farmlands in different locations. They entered boats, and in fact, all of his crops were eaten. So nothing to write him about. He had nothing, to get, to gain again from. They destroyed the whole thing, and it became an issue, all right, that he had to report the herdsmen to the police. And at the end of the day, I think what I was told I was able to get was 10,000 naira for his efforts, you know. And it was a place where there was a sitting king, and the copper was getting that treatment from them, 10,000 naira for all of. If he had been able to sell whatever it was, because I also worked with him on his farm, when I was 7, just go there and have a good time. There was a little I could do and stuff like that, but That was it. So when the issue happened, he was told that other community members had also been suffering the same fate, so they were just keeping it a bust and that it should bear, should bear. you know, that's one of the challenges in Nigeria again. People don't get justice, you know, judiciary stuff like that, because normally that was meant to be a court case. But where's the money? Where is the court are going to get money to run a court case to get it, to get a lawyer, litigation plan? So that's just it. So a lot of people are facing that kind of issue too. You plant crops and before you get there and you see that everything has been destroyed by um, cows of a certain herdsman that is heading is into nomadic heading is from place to place, and it's serious. So imagine that community now, the Ashikura community, a kind of big community. They have a lot of land there, so people there saying that they were suffering that kind of fate, you know, from their brothers, kind of in the same sector. That's what I mean. Because this is livestock farming, and I am into crop farming, for example. So from their brothers, right? So it's what it is. Now you also have inflation. So inflation affecting the costs of inputs that you use in your farming business. And the family I stay with, okay, has become so very dear to me. That have become so dear to them. Let me put it that way. Understand? Because I think they love me a lot. They're helping me out and stuff like that. So the family I stay with, they have a small poultry uh, in their backyard, and lately the feed that we use to feed the chicken, the poultry birds, they are so expensive that it's now becoming unprofitable to run the poultry business. And it's not as if the prices are coming down anyway. The prices don't look as if they are coming down; they keep going up. So I am treating this now because these are conventional things. These are things that are happening right now. That is it conventional? I mean, things happening like current issues on ground, right? So a lot of poultry business, as I've heard, the business of a friend, so someone that can call my mom now, like the business that we're running at home. So a friend of ours told her that the cost of it is now unbearable, so the poultry business can no longer really run. So someone whose farm was producing up to 30 crates of eggs on a daily basis was, as at that time that I heard around last year, October, was it October or December? The farm was now producing around maybe 2 crates or thereabout because the owner could no longer afford to buy the feed that she was going to use to feed the birds, as at when due. And the birds eat 3 times a day, just like normal human beings. 8 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 5 in the evening. So that's it. A lot of people are facing that issue now, and businesses are shutting down because of that. So that's another challenge. Then we have perishable nature of farm products. So what this does is that it doesn't give farmers negotiation power. So this is also talking about the challenge, one of the challenges in the crop farming sector. So for example, today, all right, on my way here, I bought sherry, agbalumo, all right, for Nigerians watching this that's understand Yoruba, and one was 15 naira. Normally, 150 naira. That's actually too much. It used to be around 10 naira some years ago. 5 naira, 10 naira, or thereabout. So 150. I just left. I was like, wow. The seller to call me back. Okay, how much do you want to buy? And I said two for 15 naira. Okay, how much do you want to buy? 100 naira. Then she gave me four. What I noticed was that a lot of sherry that was on display in a day or two they were going to spoil. You understand? So maybe that's what she sold to me may not be profitable to her, but she had to so as to minimize her loss. So that's also one issue. The perishable nature of farm products themselves are not of crops, farm crops are not encouraging, or may not be encouraging if you don't have an immediate market that you are selling those products to. So that they don't spoil before you finish selling them. Now you also have competing land use. Oh, if you go to places like Lagos does not really have land to use for farming anyway, but now you have people building estates. People engaging in deforestation to build estates, residential areas, companies. It's like that across different states, Abuja and stuff like that. So there's competing land use. So people using land for other things apart from farming. Well, currently, to be realistic, in Niger, there's still a lot of land that can be used for farming. But in other places, development that is happening, residential buildings, companies, factories, and whatever, is eroding the amount of land that can be used for farming. Okay, you also have poor policy enforcement. So an example of this was when Governor Baseki was complaining about this policy at the open grazing law. So the policy was meant to tackle farmer herdsmen clash because the policy was meant to restrict herdsmen to a particular area where their um, animals can be, enjoying pasture instead of moving around and destroying people's farms. But the issue at the end of the day was that it has not been properly implemented. So, if it was implemented, why would farmers go and destroy my friend's farmlands now, and he was getting 10,000 naira for it at the end of the day? So there are issues like that. You make policies, good policies, sound policies, you understand, but you don't implement them, you don't enforce them, and people still go on doing whatever they like as if the law wasn't there. So that's that about that. Anyway, so those are some of the challenges of the agricultural sector in Nigeria as at this particular period. And what are the policies that have been implemented so far? So we have number one, Anchor's Borrowers Program, ABP. This was brought in, it was the initiative of President Goodluck Jonathan in 2015 in conjunction with the Central Bank of Nigeria. And the aim of that program was to provide soft loans to farmers. Soft loans to farmers, like single digits loans. So that's why when you say soft loans, loans that have low interest rates. So to provide soft loans to farmers, you know, so that's it will solve this problem. Not solve this problem. But at the end of the day, cronyism, like I said, ate into it. The program was suspended in 2021. So cronyism ate into it. And then some farmers saw it as their share of the national cake. So they got the money eventually, but they didn't utilize the money very well. You understand? And they didn't even feel they were meant to repay it. You can imagine. Because they felt, okay, this is part of the national cake. So we are enjoying part of the national cake. So eventually, 1 trillion naira was invested into that policy by the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Nigerian federal government. But only 400 billion naira was, you know, gotten back from the farmers. Those who repay their loans and the interest. And you see, so 600 billion naira was still outside. So the program was suspended in 2021. It wasn't yielding the result that it was meant to yield. All right, and then you also have another policy. I hope I've said these things correctly. Mm, yeah, well, I think that's it. I think that's it. Loan repaid was 400 billion, so 600 billion was set aside. Now, number two, I have 0% due to agricultural machinery import and equipment. Machinery and equipment import. So there, if you were to import anything that you're going to use on your farmland, all right, so that was by um who 0%. I think that was also by Jonathan. That's by President Jonathan's administration. Yeah, that's right. So if you're importing anything like a machine, a tractor, a plow, harvester, whatever that you're going to use on the farmland, so in order to encourage that, so the government imposed 0%. So you're not going to pay any tax. So you are meant to pay import duty on those things. So if you were to bring a luxury car into the country now, you're going to pay import duty on it. But if you were to bring machinery and farm equipment, you are going to pay nothing, no tax on it. So that was a way to ensure that people engage in commercial farming. Remember the area I said I served at, and the tractors there, I don't think they were up to five. In fact, to be real, maybe one or two, and then they were still not easy to um, borrow to get. Then it was costly to borrow. So like people didn't really, people just depended on manual labor and stuff like that. So number three, we have border closure policy, which is still on as I'm talking to you. So although some places the borders have been opened, on some other places the borders are still closed. And what that is doing is it's actually a policy. It's a border closure policy against foreign rice. Yeah, it's just rice, right? Foreign rice. So you can't bring in foreign rice into Nigeria lawfully. So you are going to be apprehended. Okay, so the policy was aimed at local. It was aimed to encourage local farmers, local rice farmers. So we are no longer bringing any rice. We are no longer allowing the importation of rice into this country. So that means the Nigerian market now is market for you to supply with local rice. So that policy was done for them, so like to encourage them. Okay, start. There's a market for you now. You're not there's you don't have foreign rice competing with your own rice. So start production and start selling. So this is the market for you and stuff like that. That policy also came with its own setbacks. You buy local rice, you have a lot of stones in it. It's too costly. It's not still enough. What they are producing that is not still enough to feed the country. It has not met the country's local demand yet. And right now people are clamoring for the borders to be reopened. At least if you want to close the borders partially, not totally. Still allow some things to come in. But right now, rice is really, really expensive. A bag of rice is very expensive in Nigeria, around 30 something thousand in some places. I don't know how much it's gonna be the time you'll be watching this video. But right now, that is it. So it's then number four, constitutional guarantee. That was this by Buhari's administration. Constitutional guarantee against nationalization of investment. So that's also Jonathan's administration's policy. So you can see that I'm bringing you latest policies, some of the latest policies. I'm not bringing a policy of 1980 something, 1970 something. Things, contemporary things that are happening. So constitutional guarantee against nationalization. So here you are encouraging people to come and invest in farming, in agriculture in your country, whether the citizens themselves or foreigners. So now this guarantee is for them to know that nationalization is the forceful transfer of ownership, and running of a private business, to the government. Yeah, the government is like Yoruba will say "Gbẹ́sẹ̀lé." So the government is like taking it away from you. So now um, this policy is to tell whoever is interested in investing in Nigeria's agriculture, um, to tell them it's aimed at telling them as making them know that on no occasion will the government take your business. So it doesn't matter. It might become so successful, so large, or whatever happens, we are not going to take your business away from you. So that is kind of to give them a kind of investors confidence. So there's a confidence that if you bring your resources into Nigeria, whether as a foreigner or as a Nigerian, nothing is going to happen. The government is not going to take it away from you. Then number five, you have anti-open grazing law. So this is law is the one against farmers, herdsmen, going around with their flock, going into people's farms and stuff like that. It's telling them to stay in one place where the pasture and whatever they need is going to be provided for them. But like I said, has not been really implement. Some states have adopted it as we speak, some states have not. But even in states that have adopted it, the enforcement is still weak. These guys are still moving around. Now, number six, you have foreign restriction of certain goods. Forex restriction for certain goods. Sorry, forex restriction for certain goods. So this is saying that the government limits the amount of, because for you to import stuff into Nigeria, you are not going to be using the naira. So let's say you want to use the dollars. The dollar is a universal currency as at this time. Like I used to say that at this time, because like I used to say also, you might be watching this video in 2017 and dollar will no longer be the denomination, the world denomination of the world denominated denomination of, how do I even put it? The currency that the world basically referred to, on a common ground, right? So if you want to get dollars to invest to buy some certain products, the Central Bank of Nigeria may not give it to you if it is for a product, okay, that they are trying to encourage the domestic production of. So let's say the government wants to support rice farming in Nigeria, and then you want to borrow money to be able to, like, maybe you are a rice importer, maybe that's a business, you're a rice importer, and the government, the central government, central bank, mm, this policy is aimed at denying someone like you access to the to the foreign exchange that you need to import those goods. So what it means is that you'll be forced to go to the black market, and the black market is the parallel market or the shadow market, and then when you go there, the exchange rates in the black market is going to be higher than if you had been able to get your dollars from the government, so from the central bank. So that means it becomes difficult or very costly for you to keep importing the product that the government of the country doesn't want you to import through the CBN, you know, and you may eventually go on and import, get your dollar at a very high exchange rate and import the product. But when you do that, it adds the cost of doing business, and then it adds your production cost, and it pushes your prices up. So the essence is that the essence of the policy is to make the importation of such goods, impossible or very costly in a way that it cannot conveniently compete with local products. So by the time you bring your rice in, for example, it may end up selling for 50,000 naira, whereas the one that is locally produced now is selling for 20 something thousand naira. So what will people go for? So you are going to be out of business eventually. So that's what this policy is, aimed at. So with that, we've been able to come to the end of our discussion on the Nigerian agricultural sector. So you have an assignment, like I said, an interesting assignment again. You're going to be doing a lot of assignments in this course because we really need to know some things about a country. So here you have another assignment. Number one, state and explain three more contemporary challenges and policies of the agricultural sector. So what that means is that you state three more challenges that I've not written here. So you look for new challenges that are currently happening, and you are going to explain the challenges, briefly. Then you also include three policies of the agricultural sector. I've mentioned six, so there are other policies that we may not know about. So you talk about them as well, And when you have a question like this, let me give you a hint. When you have a question like this, your challenges and your policy recommendation must be in tandem. Like they must. So if I say that, if I'm talking about um shortage of power, for example, as a challenge. We are talking about a policy. The policy should be addressing shortage of power. The policy should not be addressing insecurity. You understand? So whatever challenge you state, the policy that you also state must be in line with the challenge. All right. So you have three challenges, then three policies. Number two, what ministry is in charge of the country's agriculture sector? So you shouldn't be studying this course and not know the ministry in charge of the country's agricultural sector. Then who is the current minister? Okay. I think another one I should add is how many years will the minister stay in office? How many years will the minister officially, all right, continue to be a minister whenever he or she is heading this ministry? You understand? So like you are looking at the term of office. Is it 20 years? Is it forever? And stuff like that. Now number three, you have to write succinctly about the Anchors Borrowers Program introduced in 2015. I've told you some things about it. So now you have to find that there are some things I didn't mention that I know but didn't mention. So you have to now look for those things and put them in writing. So all of these assignment number three, for example, should not be more than one page. I don't know what you're writing. Then all of your assignments, everything here should not be more than two pages, please, no matter how big your handwriting is. So yeah, thank you. In the next class, we'll be talking about industrialization. Yeah, see you there. Thank you.